The air was crisp, the kind of cold that bites at your skin and reminds you you're alive. Joe Biden walked alone through the quiet streets of his Wilmington neighborhood. The weight of the presidency finally lifted from his shoulders. The houses were dark, the sidewalks empty. It was just him, his thoughts, and the faint echo of his footsteps. But as he turned the corner, the stillness shattered. A group of shadowy figures emerged from the alley, their voices low and threatening. Before Joe could react, they surrounded him. One of them shoved him hard, sending him stumbling backward. "Look what we got here," one sneered. "An old man who thinks he's still in charge." Joe's heart raced as he braced himself. He was no stranger to conflict. But this was different. He was alone, unarmed, and outnumbered. Just as one of the men raised his fist, a voice cut through the night like a knife. "Back off." The group turned, their eyes narrowing at the figures stepping out of the shadows. It was a young man, no older than 20, his face gaunt but fierce. His clothes were worn, his hands clenched into fists. He didn't look like much, but there was something in his eyes, a fire, a determination that made the men hesitate. "This doesn't concern you, kid," one of the thugs growled. The young man didn't flinch. "It does now." Before anyone could react, he lunged forward, his fist connecting with the closest man's jaw. The crack echoed through the street, and the man stumbled back, clutching his face. The others froze, their bravado wavering. "He's got a gun," one of them shouted. Though the young man was unarmed, the lie worked. Panic spread through the group, and they backed away, their confidence crumbling. Within seconds, they were gone, disappearing into the night like shadows. Joe sat on the ground, his breathing heavy, his mind racing. The young man knelt beside him, offering a hand. "You okay, sir?" Joe took his hand, surprised by the strength in the boy's grip. "I'm fine," he said, though his voice betrayed the adrenaline still coursing through him. "Who are you?" The young man hesitated, his eyes darting to the ground. "Name's Marcus. I live around here." Joe noticed the way Marcus avoided his gaze, the way his clothes hung loosely on his frame. This wasn't just a kid who lived around here. This was someone who had been forgotten by the world. "You saved my life back there," Joe said, his voice softening. "Why?" Marcus shrugged, his shoulders tense. Didn't seem right what they were doing. You're him, aren't you? The president." "Former president," Joe corrected with a faint smile. "But yeah, that's me." Marcus nodded, his expression unreadable. "You shouldn't be out here alone, not at your age." The words stung, but Joe couldn't argue. He was 81 years old, and tonight had been a stark reminder of his vulnerability. As they walked together, Joe couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was more than just chance. Marcus was quiet, but there was a story in his silence, a story Joe needed to hear. "Where's your family, Marcus?" Joe asked gently. Marcus's jaw tightened. "Gone. Mom died when I was 12. Dad, well, let's just say he's not in the picture." Joe nodded, his heart aching for the young man. "You got anyone looking out for you?" Marcus shook his head. "Just me. Always has been." Joe stopped walking and turned to face him. "That changes tonight. You saved my life, Marcus. The least I can do is make sure you're taken care of." Marcus looked at him, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Why? You don't even know me." "Because no one should have to face this world alone," Joe said, his voice firm. By the time they reached Joe's house, the first light of dawn was breaking over the horizon. Joe invited Marcus inside, offering him a warm meal and a place to rest. As they sat at the kitchen table, Joe couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. "You ever think about what you want to do with your life?" Joe asked. Marcus hesitated, then shrugged. "Never really had the chance to think about it." "Well, you do now," Joe said. "You've got strength, courage, and a heart that cares about others. That's more than most people have." Marcus looked down at his hands, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can be more than this." "You already are," Joe said firmly. "And I'm going to make sure the world sees it." That night, in the quiet streets of Wilmington, two lives collided in a way that would change them both forever. For Joe, it was a reminder that even in his darkest moments, there was still hope, and that sometimes the people who save us are the ones who need saving the most. For Marcus, it was the beginning of a new chapter, a chance to rewrite his story. The tears streamed down Marcus's face as he realized that for the first time in his life, someone truly cared. Joe's hand rested on his shoulder, a silent promise of support and love. The world outside continued to turn, but in that small kitchen, time stood still. Two hearts, one young and one old, beat as one, a testament to the enduring power of compassion and the unbreakable bonds of humanity. The young man who had once been invisible, who had wandered through life alone, now had a shot at something more. He had a chance to rewrite his story. Joe sat Marcus down at the kitchen table, a stack of papers and brochures spread out before them. "Marcus, I've arranged for you to enroll in a job training program. It's a chance to learn new skills, to build a future for yourself. You'll have a place to stay, food to eat, and people who care about you. This is your chance to start over." Marcus's hands trembled as he picked up one of the brochures, his eyes scanning the words. I don't know what to say," he stammered, his voice choked with emotion. "You don't have to say anything," Joe replied, his voice gentle but firm. "Just promise me you'll give it your all. That's all I ask." The night had been long, but the dawn brought with it a new thing, a hope. In Wilmington, in a small kitchen, two souls found redemption. Because sometimes the people who need saving the most are the ones who save us in the end.